Good morning, students. In the previous class, we were learning about a lesson called Sunny Morning. In that particular class, we learned about how write a chance meeting between two old people. One is Don Gonzalo and one more is Donna Laura. Eventually led to series of conversation between either of them. And one particular instance wherein Don Gonzalo unknowingly chases away the birds or pigeons, to be accurate, and that leads to an angry conversation between Don Gonzalo as well as Donna Laura, and that conversation keeps on continuing, and it leads to so many series of comical instances. And finally we winded up that particular day's class wherein Donna Laura and Don Gonzalo are commenting about eyesight, their eyesight, and both of them are boasting about having a good eyesight. And that's where we ended in the previous class. And let us proceed now further. Now the conversation starts with Donna Laura. Well, you subside then. She says, if you want to read, if you want to read the book, you carry on with that. You subside then. Don Gonzalo, but first I shall take a pinch of snuff. Normally in village or rural areas, people till date do have the habit of taking a bit of snuff, because that releases a bit of tension in them. So even in this case, both of them, we are informed that both of them are 70 plus. And Don Gonzalo says that before reading or before continuing to read, let me take a pinch of snuff. He takes out a snuff box and he offers to Donna Laura. Will you have some? Offers the box to Donna Laura. Donna Laura, if it is good, she says, I will have a pinch of snuff only if it is of good quality. Don Gonzalo, it is of the finest quality. You will like it or you will love it. Donna Laura, taking a pinch of snuff, and she says, it clears my head. Don Gonzalo, and mine too. Even it clears my head also. Donna Laura, after taking a pinch of snuff, do you sneeze? Do you sneeze? Don Gonzalo, yes ma'am, 3 times. I sneeze thrice. Don Gonzalo, and so do I. What a coincidence. Even Donna Laura says that even I sneeze thrice after taking a pinch of snuff. And he also they both of them even conclude that what a coincidence. Now after taking the snuff, they await the sneezes, both anxiously, very eagerly, and sneeze alternatively 3 times each. If it is once, it was the turn of Don Gonzalo, next it will be the turn of Donna Laura. So they repeat this process 3 times each. Don Gonzalo, there I feel better. After sneezing thrice, he says, I feel better now, feel a bit comfortable. Donna Laura, so do I. Now she is telling to herself. Aside means speaking to herself, not in a loud voice, she is whispering to herself. So do I. And now she thinks that finally this pinch of snuff has established peace between us. She is telling to herself. Next, Don Gonzalo, you will excuse me if I read aloud. Now he's asking Donna Laura's permission. Do you mind? Will you excuse me if I read loudly? Donna Laura replies, read as loud as you please. Read as loudly as you want or as you wish. You will not disturb me. You are not going to disturb me. You read as loud as you want. You will not be disturbing me. Don Gonzalo, next, reading. All love is sad, but sad as it is the best thing that we know. He is commenting in that particular love poem that the best thing in the world is love. And Don Gonzalo is saying to Donna Laura that it is from Campoamor. Campoamor is a famous Spanish writer. Donna Laura is very much excited to hear those words. Ah, she replies. Don Gonzalo, he continues reading. These are just lines. There is no need to summarize them. The daughters of the mothers I once loved kiss me now as they would a graven image those lines, I take it, are in a humorous vein. Now Don Gonzalo is saying to Donna Laura that these particular lines, he thinks that they are written in a humorous way, in a funny way. Donna Laura, even she enjoys that particular comment. She laughs and she says, I take them so too. Even I feel these lines are written in a funny way or humorous way. Don Gonzalo, there are some beautiful poems in this book. And now he starts continuing to read. He continues to read further. 20 years pass, he returns. Now these are the right lines which are right in that particular poem. He continues further. 20 years pass, he returns. When Don Gonzalo is reading all these lines, suddenly Donna Laura interrupts and says, you cannot imagine, Donna Laura, you cannot imagine how it affects me to see you reading with all those glasses. She says, I'm really bothered about you when I see you reading with those enormous glasses. Don Gonzalo, can you read without any? Immediately, Don Gonzalo is inquiring with her. If that is the case, are you able to read without any glasses or without any specs? Donna Laura, certainly. She says, of course, I can read, obviously, without any specs or glass. Don Gonzalo, at your age, you are jesting. Now, Don Gonzalo is replying to her. He says, at your age, you are just kidding. Jesting means you are just joking, kidding. I don't think, you are able to read without any glass. Donna Laura, if you don't believe, then pass me the book. Just pass me the book. She takes the book and Donna Laura reads aloud, means loudly. And these were the following lines. 20 years pass, he returns, and each, beholding the other, exclaims, can it be that this is he? Heavens, is it she? So these were the further lines from that poem, and Donna Laura reads as loudly as she could. Now Donna Laura returns the book to Don Gonzalo. After reading those lines, she returns the book to Don Gonzalo. Don Gonzalo, indeed I envy your wonderful eyesight. Envy means I feel jealous about your wonderful eyesight, because even at this age you are able to read so clearly and so perfectly. So I feel jealous about your wonderful eyesight. Now Donna Laura aside means telling to herself. Now this is one more funny incident, because in reality what happens is, when we read the further lines we'll understand. Aside means she is telling to herself in a low voice. What is she telling to herself? I know every word by heart. Now Donna Laura was able to read each and every line perfectly and so clearly because she knew each and every line by heart. She was able to read so clearly not because of her good eyesight. She was able to read properly because she knew each and every line by heart. So once again here, she started making fun of him with commenting about his eyesight. By commenting about his eyesight. Don Gonzalo, I'm very fond of good verses. Verses means good lines. He says, I'm very fond of good lines in a poem. Very fond. I even composed some in my youth. During my younger days, even I have written so many poems. Next, Donna Laura. Good ones, that means, are you able to write good verses or good lines? Don Gonzalo, of all kinds. And he also throws more light about how he started showing more and more passion for writing. I was a great friend of Espronceda, Zorilla, Becquer and others. These are all great Spanish writers. And he says, I first met Zorilla in America. Donna Laura, why have you been in America? Now next question Donna Laura asking Don Gonzalo is, why have you visited America? Don Gonzalo, several times. He says, I have went to America, I have gone to America on several occasions. The first time I went, I was only 6 years old. So Don Gonzalo says, when I went to America for the very first time, I was just 6 years old. Donna Laura, you must have gone with Columbus in one of his caravels. Caravel is a means of transport used during those olden time. So now, as soon as he said, I went to America when I was just 6 years old, Donna Laura makes use of this opportunity and starts. As soon as Don Gonzalo says that he went to America when he was just 6 years old. Donna Laura makes use of this opportunity and starts making or passing funny comments, or funny statements about that. And she says, you must have gone with Columbus in one of his caravels. That means, Columbus is the person who invented America. Since he told, I went to America numerous times, she's making fun. You might have gone even with Columbus. Don Gonzalo couldn't stop laughing. Even he enjoyed that funny remark made by Donna Laura. And he also further clarifies that, not quite as bad as that. I'm old, I admit. He says, I'm old. I admit that. But don't think that I was able to go with Columbus. I'm not so old. I'm old, I just admit that. But I'm not as old as Columbus. But I did not know Ferdinand and Isabella. These were two Spanish travelers. And they set out on exploring different parts of the world. And he says, I'm old, I admit. Because I'm old, don't think that I know people like Ferdinand and Isabella. I did not go with them because I'm not so old. Now both of them enjoyed that particular comment and they start laughing. And now Don Gonzalo continues, I was also a great friend of Campoamor, this famous Spanish writer whose poem we already read or discussed in the previous slides. I met him in Valencia. It's a place in Spain. He says, I met in Valencia. And I'm a native of that city called Valencia. Now, as soon as Don Gonzalo makes reference about this place called Valencia, Donna Laura is surprised, and she wants to affirm or confirm whether he mentioned about this place. So this is what she is asking. You are means, are you from Valencia? Don Gonzalo, I was brought up there. I was brought up during my younger days in that place called Valencia, and there I spent my early youth. I spent most of my youth in that place called Valencia. And next, Don Gonzalo is asking her, inquiring with her, have you ever visited that city called Valencia? Donna Laura gives a reply, yes sir. Senor means sir. Not far away from Valencia, there is a villa, there is a big house, there is a bungalow. That if still there, I don't know whether that place still exists. But if it still exists, should retain, that villa will have, retain means will have enough memories of me. I spent several seasons, means so many years there. It was many years ago. Even I have spent in that particular villa in Valencia. It was near the sea. That particular villa was surrounded by scenic beauty. You could it was very near to the sea. And this villa was hidden away, means it was covered or surrounded by lemon and orange trees. It was hidden in the middle of lemon and orange trees. And they called it, now she is trying to recollect the name of that particular villa. Let me see, what did they call it? And she finally comes out with the name Maricela. The name is Maricela. As soon as Don Gonzalo hears about this name called Maricela, he is startled, he is surprised, he is shocked. So he wants to confirm whether she mentioned about that particular name. So he is asking, Maricela? Donna Laura, yes, Maricela. Is that name familiar to you? Do you know about that particular villa? Don Gonzalo, yes, very familiar. I am very familiar with that particular name. If my memory serves me if I have memories, if I am able to recollect all those memories about my youth. Because we forget as we grow old. Because what happens with human beings is, as we grow old, we forget about a few old memories. But my memories if my memories are right, then there lived in that villa the most beautiful woman I have ever seen. And I assure you, means I promise you, I have seen many, I have seen so many women or girls in that locality. I can promise you that she was the most prettiest woman I have ever seen in that locality. Let me see what was her name. And he slowly starts to recollect. He says, let me recollect. And he slowly starts to recollect her name. Laura, and finally comes out with the name Laura Lorente. As soon as Donna Laura hears about that name called Laura Lorente, even now this is our turn to get surprised as well as shocked. So even now she is asking Don Gonzalo, did you mention about this name? She wants to confirm. Laura Lorente, Don Gonzalo, yes. Now both of them look at each other with intention. That means intentively. Both of them start looking at each other. Donna Laura recovering herself. As soon as she heard about that name, she was shocked. And it took few minutes for her to recover from that shock. And finally, she breaks the silence by saying that nothing. When Don Gonzalo asked what happened, she said nothing. She says, you reminded me of my best friend. By mentioning about that name, you reminded me about my best friend. Don Gonzalo, how strange. Donna Laura, it is strange. And now she throws more light about that character called Laura Lorente. And she says she was called the Silver Maiden. Don Gonzalo acknowledges this particular comment and says precisely, exactly, that is how she was called in that place or locality, the Silver Maiden. By that name she was known in that locality. I seem to see her as if she were before me now. When I start remembering about her name, I could visualize her picture now. That is, she used to stand at her window. At the window with the red roses. She used to hold red roses standing beside her window. Now Don Gonzalo is asking Donna Laura, do you remember that lady called Laura Lorente who used to stand beside her window? Donna Laura, yes, I do remember. It was the window of her room. Don Gonzalo, she spent many hours there. She spent many hours standing beside her window. I mean in my day. That means I do remember about my youth or youthful days. During my youthful days, this lady called Laura Lorente used to stand for hours together beside the window. Donna Laura, sighing means to take a long deep breath whenever you are tired. Whenever you are feeling uneasy, you take a long deep breath. You pant for breath. That is called sighing. And she replies, and in mine too. Even during my youthful days, I remember about this character. Students, with this we'll wind up this particular class and we'll continue in the next class. Thank you.